All right. Let me stop sharing this.
Exit man.
Hey, welcome to the Soapboxx Podcast. I am your host, TJ Legacy, and I am joined. Actually, skip that. We're going to do both of our intros together because this is a very special podcast intro. So I'm going to say, welcome to the Soapboxx, and our special guest, Ted. You go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Hey, I'm Ted Bogert. Welcome to the TED Show, part of the crossover.
All right. And so, as you guys know on the podcast, I have lovely host, Alan. You could be lovely too. Lovely and thorough host, I guess. All the way from Duval County in Jacksonville, we have Ish. What's going on, Ish?
Hey there. How's it going, everybody?
Everybody's good. Everybody looking fresh and clean with the yellow sundress. Sundress season is in the building for those who can see Ish on our live stream. Also, all the way from Boston, Massachusetts, Boston by way of Brockton, we have entertainer Jess. What's going on, Jess?
What's poppin'? It's Thursday, so I hope y'all got your drinks because I know I do. Hey, okay.
Yes. And as I said, my man 50 Grams has been with me since day one. What's going on, Alan York?
Hey, I'm feeling good. And I don't feel no way being called lovely. I'm a lovely individual,
We are very secure. We are very secure men on this podcast, so I can call you. It's more than okay. But our special guest, and we are his special guest, is Ted. Ted, what's going on? Ted Bogert.
What's
going on?
up, TJ? How you guys doing?
Pretty good. Listen, Ted, when we came up with this, actually, I have to give credit where credit's due. Ishna came up with this concept of, hey, let's have a wind down via our podcast for our viewers. And so I said, you know what? Who could we have a wind down with? And I said the perfect person to have a sip and chat with would be Ted, so that we could look fabulous, drink wine, and live our fabulous lives.
Better believe it, man. I mean, that's what I do every day on my show. And so I'm very happy to have other people that like to imbibe as much as I do.
Yeah, absolutely. So right here, I have my it's a special occasion. So I'm cracking open. This is very rare. Okay, I'm cracking open a bottle of vintage 2012 Barefoot Moscato. It has been aged. It has been aged to perfection. It was a good year. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour, and you can take it away, man. Do your thing that you do on your show.
I'm just excited to be on here. I love the concept of the soapbox. I love it. I think you guys are funny and yet still really stay relevant. And I have listened to and watched. I did just a teeny bit of research because I do most of my research. I spend that money on booze, so I don't really get to do too much research. But I wanted to not come on here like a complete idiot. I wanted to know a little bit. What I love about what you guys do, you have this really cool vibe, and there's nothing is off the table. Everything's on the table, and the conversation can go a million different places. And I absolutely love that. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. I think when we developed the Soapboxx, that's particularly what I wanted, in the vision, is to make sure that we have a platform that it's not so much geared towards the traditional way of journalism. We wanted to look at it and have an innovative way of how do we put the medicine in the candy? How do we disseminate information? Have really just an informed way of looking at news, so that our demographic, which is the 25 to 45 demographic, or even younger, 18 to 25, can consume the information and really get to know us as freelance journalists and media personalities.
I'm curious, one thing I didn't know or didn't really spend too much time looking up because I wanted to ask you, what was the impetus behind it? How did you all come up with the concept for the Soapboxx? Why? Like, what was your why?
Oh, well, in the beginning, like, I'm a guest contributor to the Orlando Sentinel. And I also write in the media space, but people know me mostly because of my political activism here in Orlando, Florida. So I wanted to make an impact. I never wanted to continue to be stale. And so I wanted to reach as many people as possible. So I wanted to get into the media space. However, when you're an activist and you've been talking about corrupt cops and exposing things, you don't really get that many offers. So I figured, why not create our own? And I reached out to these fine folks to assist me and help me, because I wanted people who could actually see the vision, but actually passionate about connecting with folks.
Fascinating. I love it. I think that we need more people that take the chance and be a voice, whatever that voice is. It's still a voice. And I love that you guys are out there. We're all putting ourselves out on a limb, no matter what you're doing every day. If you're doing something like this, you're putting yourself out there. And I absolutely love that. I think more of us need to take the chance. Social media is such a great platform for it. So why not utilize it? Utilize it for good, or utilize it for whatever it is that you want to. At least say something instead of saying nothing.
Absolutely. And I just want to let everybody know who's watching this live stream. Hello to all of Ted's audience and our audience that are watching. You can click the link if you would like to be a special call-in guest. You can. That's the link information in the description. You can chat and come in the chat and chat with us. Maybe ask us a question, ask Ted a question, and talk with everybody. Talk with folks.
So can I ask questions?
Yeah, go ahead, Ted.
All right. So since I want to get to know everyone, and I want my audience to get to know you, if you guys can tell us, and I'm sure your audience is always good to hear. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do, why you're here? I think it would be really cool for the audience to know. So I just pick. I'm sorry. I'm so used to being in control. It's really weird to not take over.
I like not being in control. This is different. So I like
crazy, right? I like it a lot though. It's pretty cool. I think I can handle a co-host. So that's good for me. I'm not so selfish. Jess, how about you?
Hey, what's up? How are you? I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here. So how did I end up being on the podcast, or what do you just want to like?
What's your voice? What do you try? What's your why?
So my why, so TJ, he called on me because he thought I was special. TJ, you're my man for that. No, being serious. So I am a social media person. I made my appearance on social media by posting Cape Verdean comedy videos. So I built a platform off of that. And ever since I started doing that, and I started to see like the traction that I was getting as far as like who was watching it and the feedback that I was getting, I just continued on. And ever since then, I just, continued it. I came onto the podcast, and it's given me a chance to like just kind of step out of my comfort zone. I did go to school for journalism, but I quit after 2 semesters because they talked too much politics, and I'm just not really a politic person. So,
so she got on our podcast, and there's politics again.
Right. So, I'm just, my why is I'm happy. It makes me happy. So why not? And then I just want to leave a mark, one day when I leave, at least people, if they don't know me for nothing, they'll know me as the girl who's on social media and made some people laugh. So
love it. How about you, Ish?
We just heard some news. Jess said she's leaving soon, so I didn't know that.
What's the news? Tell me.
I'm just joking. Jess is like, when I leave, and I'm like, huh? When are you leaving? We'll talk about that later. Okay, but go ahead, Ish.
Yeah, so I'm a writer, freelance writer. It's what I do in my spare time: biographies, articles, press kit releases, just different things for business owners. I used to work at a company that built websites, and I was a copywriter there. So kind of branched off and do that to make money in my spare time. I have a journalism degree from Howard University. Woo woo.
Awesome.
HU, so this is kind of how I started out, and TJ reached out to me, and I liked him, and I liked the vibe and the concept of the show. So I was just like immediate, like I'm down to participate, to be a guest contributor. We'll see how that goes. And yeah, philosophy minor, happy person, happy spirited, and I'm getting ready to go back to grad school.
Congratulations. Good for you.
Oh,
grad school is crazy. I have an MS degree in something. I don't know if I couldn't study for anything right now. I'd lose my mind.
Yeah,
well, congratulations, though. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. People keep asking me, am I prepared? I think I am. So I haven't been in school in about 7 years or so. So we'll see.
Wow. Last time I graduated with my master's before any of you were born, I think. So I have Black Ben Franklin, but you're also known as Black Aladdin, I think, if I saw something somewhere. So there's a theme here. So tell us about you, Alan.
Yeah, man. My name is Alan, Young Ginger Ale, probably best known as Alan York. Me and TJ go way back to college, so we did a lot of things, a lot of great things together in student government. So essentially, he called me and told me the concept, and me just I'm like, listen, man, whatever you need, just let me know. So I'm here. Outside of this, I have probably dabbled in a bunch of different stuff, like a little Renaissance man. I got a AA in communications. I did a little bit. I tried my hand in journalism. I really love music journalism. I kind of stopped that because I do music as well, just because of the fact that sometimes it could be a little bit of conflict of interest. So, between my own music, and I do the marketing and I do the rollout plan. So I kind of encompass myself as being an artist, but it's always good to express myself in different outlets like the Soapboxx, because the majority of the time I try just not to really step on toes, just because of, potential future political connects. So I try to keep my Twitter and my Facebook clean, but here it's a little bit different. So when they pull the footage up, I'm gonna need y'all backup,
It's nice to have a place to do that, right? That's what I love about the Soapboxx. TJ, I mean, I have to ask, you shared a little bit, but like what kind of voice are you trying to have? I think that would be cool for the audience to know. Like, are you digging into issues that tick you off or that make you happy, or is it a combination of all of that and you just want to speak about what's on your mind?
Well, I think I'm a person that considers myself unapologetically Black. And I think a lot of times within the news media, we don't get to tell our stories from our perspective, from our experiences in this country. And so allowing me to have that space to be creative and to create and to not be so, to be a little informal. Sometimes the best interviews I take are when we have our politicians or the comedians that we interview, to have their authentic take, so that they're not so polished, so that people can appreciate authenticity. And I think that's really what I wanted. So the impact that I want is that I want people to be real. I think the most valuable asset that people have is being able to look in the mirror and see their own reflection. And so, I know they kind of undersold themselves, but I've surrounded myself with people who are selfless and who actually represent, different aspects of people's lives, whether they are, and we're missing someone who's Javonni, who's actually on the Hill in Tallahassee. The governor is about to do a press conference that she has to do and listen in, so she apologized for not being here. But these are people who really help galvanize me in any of my shortcomings. Ish has explained, she has a polished background, more traditional background in journalism. She's very meticulous and cerebral in her approach of doing things. Jess is probably has the most pure talent, is the most pure talented person that I've ever met. So the creativity that she brings and the energy that she brings to the podcast is invaluable. And I've never accomplished more in my life without having Alan by my side. And so Alan is, my, I wouldn't say my crutch, but he's definitely someone that gives me that reassurance, and someone that can tell me, hey, TJ, no, he's not afraid to tell me what he thinks. And I think it's important for people to have authentic and true people by your side. And then Javonni is another one with a traditional background, but she also sees the vision beyond what we're doing right now.
Love it. What can I keep asking questions, or you?
Yeah, absolutely.
You take the reins from me anytime, because I'll just keep going into show mode, man.
My wine, yeah.
So I think it would be really cool if you shared. Again, I know my audience, but what are some of the most recent things that you guys have had talks about that really got either heated in a good way or a, I don't know, an emotional way, a passionate way? Maybe that'll give them an idea of what kind of topics you bring up. I mean, there's so much going on in the world right now. We're all sitting here in quarantine. I'm about to lose my mind. I'm in my bedroom doing shows like 8 hours a day. And so I just want to collapse most days. Could be the alcohol too, don't get me wrong. But what are some of the things that you guys have recently talked about, or maybe something that's on your mind now? I think it's really cool that you have this platform. You know, my platform tends to be a little, you know, there's the passion, but I don't allow people to get angry at each other, which I know you guys don't either. You guys you're not disrespectful at all. You guys are loving and caring, but passionate.
Oh, we get angry all the time. Yeah, you get passionate. Yeah,
I love it.
We're unscripted and uncensored, so if
I
it
love
happens,
it.
it happens.
So what recently has come up? What have you recently talked about, or what's on your mind now? That, I mean, there's just so much stuff going on. I can't keep track of it. I got really ticked off today, I can tell you, because all of the money ran out for all of the small businesses, and there's 37,000 applicants that are not going to get any money. There were only 1,000 out of all of that. And, you know, this is the kind of stuff that really aggravates me, that I don't have a platform to talk about. I guess I could, but this is, you know, those are the kind of things that make me upset. What about you guys? What have you talked about and really gotten passionate about lately?
Well, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, on the show, I remember one of the first times that I was on, we interviewed someone about human trafficking, and there were specific questions that we were asking as to, is there ever a time that women are okay with just having sex with the men? And I think that kind of created a little tension from what I interpreted, at least, because the speaker wanted it to be known that these people are usually not in their right mind, or they're very young, so it's usually a form of manipulation. But we kept going back to the question about, is there ever a time where it is consensual and the woman is just making this choice?
Fascinating. I have to go back and watch that one. I serve on two human trafficking boards, and I would imagine that must have been a fascinating conversation. Whew.
Yeah, thank you, Al. Also,
that was Jan.
What about the rest of you?
Mine isn't as serious as.
What I was trying to say is that that was.
Go ahead.
Go, Jess.
Okay, fine. Mine wasn't as serious as Ishna's, but mine goes back to you, Alan. I'm gonna target you real quick. The last conversation we had when you said that she was dating a girl who had kids, and she said that she was gonna come over and she was gonna bring her kids, and you was like, no, you're not. And you know, it's funny because I was just thinking about that today. Like, literally, I was like getting ready, and I don't know, something that just came into my mind, because I'm like, you know, like, if I date somebody and they tell me that I can't bring my kids, like, I'm not gonna keep talking to you, you know, because that's part of my identity. But Alan, I know you had your reasons. But it was just something that
good for you.
It was just something that I was thinking about.
Did you see him take a drink when you started talking about that?
Right.
Ironically, I was probably gonna say the same thing. I actually got like, well, also, just to clarify again, we were not dating. But yeah, actually, one of my friends actually hit me up about that. He said he was watching the episode, and he was like, I can't believe you said that. I was like, well, we weren't dating. But that was probably the closest thing. I try to keep like an even keel on most things, and not go too far left or far right. Not necessarily on purpose, but just because, you know, I'm really big on like energy allocation. And all of my co-hosts are just so great, and they have their top niches that they're really passionate about. So yeah, I would probably say that's the closest thing as well, for sure.
TJ, how about you? What have you like gotten super passionate, angry, pissed off, happy about that you've talked about on the show?
Oh man, I'm always passionate about politics, because, you know, politics is a bunch of people telling a community that they love them, but then when you actually interact with these people, you realize on a personal level, that a lot of them aren't being forthcoming with who they are as people and what they actually represent. So I'm always passionate about bringing that to the forefront, on the podcast. And as you can see, we don't only just talk about news and current events. We dive into our own personal lives. And so we each challenge each other. And so, and it's good that we have a balance between men and women, so that we can, sometimes we have these clashes of the Titans, like like Ish was talking about. We talked with Jan Edwards in our episode. That was the episode with the human trafficking.
Oh, that was Jan. Jan was on your show.
Yes, Jan Edwards. We talked. That episode's called "The Romeo Pimp," and what she was referring to was how the predators basically sweet talk the women into into manipulating them and into sleeping with them. And what's great about what she said about how she was passionate about that is the guests that we have, no one has to come on our show and necessarily be an expert. You don't have to be an expert to be an advocate. And so the guests and the atmosphere that we have allows people to learn from the conversation and maybe say something that they're ignorant. There's no, we're not so quick to have the cancel culture that most people will have on the Soapboxx Podcast, because we use these moments as teachable moments, such as one of the things that I was passionate about was a girl called me from jail, and I picked her up, and I went and I got something to eat. This is the highest rated episode that we have. I picked her up from jail, and because I didn't get her anything to eat, everybody felt like I was the bad person because I ate in front of her and I didn't offer her anything.
That was the takeaway. Fascinating.
That's what's up.
And I said, my mom didn't teach me to pick up anybody from jail, but it's that type of discourse. And then we talk about, sexism. We talk about, like you said, human trafficking. We get takes on, D.L. Hughley, Kevin on stage, Godfrey, the comedian, Tony Rock, Chris Rock's brother, who's also a comedian. We get a lot of people's takes on social political issues and awareness. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
What interview pops out into your mind? Because you've done this. You're on episode, I think, like 380 something.
I'm in the upper 500s.
Upper 500. Okay, so we're in our infancy stage. We're vastly approaching episode 50. What interview sticks out to you? What interview sticks out to you the most when you talk about, you weren't expecting the interview to go that way? Because I know sometimes you could expect, okay, this is going to be a pretty standard interview, but then something kind of went left field and you kind of either learned something or were shocked by what somebody said on your show.
Fantastic question. So two things come to mind. The first is I always get thrown by crying, and almost everybody who's cried when I'm interviewing them has been a dude. And so when a guy begins to cry, when I ask that, whatever the question is, and I don't do any research, like I said, so I'm just asking off the cuff everything. And when that guy cries, it literally makes me stop dead in my tracks. So that surprises me every single time. I do have to say, one episode I did, and I try to bury it, and I hope these people never, ever realize I'm talking about them. We were doing something on a fundraiser for kids, and they began talking very seriously about how the females in their organization all were required to wear promise rings, and the men were not, and the females were. And it took this really, crazy, culty kind of turn. And I wrapped that show up as fast as I possibly could, because it was an uncomfortable place to be. There was absolutely no way that I was going to reach them, and they were very serious. And instead of focusing on the kids and the fundraiser, they wanted to keep going back to the purity ring and the promise ring that all of the women wore, and females young and old in that particular organization. And I, to this day, when it comes up, just don't promote that show. I don't delete it because I'm not a believer in that, but I just am not going to go out and promote that. Caught me by surprise. Definitely fastest wrap up ever.
Well, I think I don't think anybody's cried on our show. I've cried probably after a show from being teased. I get teased a lot by a lot of my co-hosts, but maybe afterwards. Just teasing me all the time and fat shames me, but it's okay. It's okay. I'm good. But
You know,
no,
you guys you have a great energy though. I mean, you all have. I know you're serious about the topics you're going to talk about, but you have this. You can feel it immediately. You have this great respect and admiration for each other, which allows you to have those open conversations and know that at the end of the day, you still care about each other, you still respect each other. And I think that's super important. The structure that you've set up for your show.
Yeah, I think the most emotional. I think the most emotional episode that I think I've had. I don't think that everybody was on it. Was when I recapped the Pulse nightclub shooting. Because I wasn't there, but I was there for the relief efforts. And so when I went there to organize at the One Blood Center, you know, it was more of a reflective. I was sitting in my car. I did it, you know, recorded through my phone. And it was just really reflective as to how it impacted me. I'm not in that space. I'm not in the LGBTQ community. However, seeing how that day, how people from all walks of life wanted to pitch in and donate and help, and how people wanted just a shoulder to cry on, no matter what your beliefs are, what your walk of life was something that always touched me. I always remember, and you know, it's almost like Rogue One in Star Wars, like the people who were at the One Blood Center. I'll never forget that day. And those
That's people. A good one. That is I think anybody who's in Orlando, especially, I mean, the world wept with us and supported us, I feel like, but I think anybody who was in Orlando, I had Patty Sheehan on, and that was for the Pulse anniversary. We talked a lot about, and just, you know, it's so raw still. It's been how many years? And when people talk about it, when they get choked up, I get choked up. I'll cry, like, seriously, on a dime. So, I mean, I have no qualms about that. But when you talk about stuff like that, everybody has some sort of gut reaction to that. And it's the same when I've interviewed several 9/11 survivors, and you want to talk about bringing you right back to that. Wow. It's just that kind of, you just don't forget that kind of stuff. And it's still so raw and so real. So yeah, I understand.
And I think it was important. It was important for me to share that story on the platform, because a lot of misconception is, you know, we're proud of who we are. We're proud of the skin that we're in. But a lot of the misconceptions about predominantly Black media or African Americans in media is that we can't cross over and talk about other things. We just want to talk about social political issues because, yes, those disproportionately affect us, but we can also be professional. We can also talk about issues that are affecting other communities and do a good job with it, and also have fun as well.
I mean, you have to, anybody who would think that about your show, I mean, you've got an old white guy on the show. So I don't think there's any problem with you crossing over. I wanted to share with you that a little bit. I was on, Vanessa Eccles has a podcast called Colorblind, and I was a guest on there, and it was just fascinating as a white man to hear things and to experience some of the things that I just didn't know. Hank Van Putten was on the show, and Hank, if I pronounced your last name wrong, I'm really sorry, but he just talked about this systematic was his word. And it just took me a while for it to sink in because I had never thought about it like that. So I love the fact that you're open to having anybody on, having a discussion. I think it's so important. I think the more that we're able to have discussions, I mean, I am so far removed from your age group, anything else aside age group wise. And so I just appreciate the fact that you're willing to have an old guy on here and talk. I think it's so important to listen to all of the things you have to say, and for everybody to kind of garner their own thing from each different person. So kudos to you guys for having me on the show.
I have a question that I have a question.
Can I just say something real quick? Ted, you are not old. Stop calling yourself old because you're not old.
You're kind. No, 55. I'll be 56 this year.
I've always wanted to know. I've always wanted to know, Ted, where do you get your clothes? Where do you shop? Like your suits
So
and stuff, because you're always like, I look at all your stuff and I'm like, I don't know. You have to order that jacket. Like, I don't see that on the rack.
No, you would. So this jacket, I did a special show today, which I mean, you guys can take a look at later. I made a big announcement today, and I wore this shirt, this jacket on purpose. But my wife Stacy buys all of my clothes for me. She does a phenomenal job, and she dresses me, and she matches the jacket. And I mean, I'm wearing gym shorts underneath this every day. So she picks out the jacket, the shirt, pocket square. If I'm wearing shoes, she picks out shoes and socks, and we've got the whole thing going on. So she is the shopper. And my area of the closet is definitely bigger than her area of the closet. That's for sure. I like anything colorful. I don't like boring. I don't like to like this white shirt. I mean, I don't think the last time I wore a white shirt was probably with a tux, but it's the only thing that really kind of goes with this particular jacket that I have. I like a lot of color. I'm not afraid to wear anything. I will literally wear anything you put me in, as long as it fits. That's another discussion, COVID discussion, because nothing fits anymore. But yeah, my wife does everything.
Jess, or did y'all have Jess or Ish or Alan? Did y'all have a question you wanted to ask Ted?
Yeah, Ted, just you stating that you being on episode upper 500s, what is it that fuels you to be as consistent as you are?
That's a really great question too. So in the beginning, when I launched the show, my first guest is a college friend of mine, Gert Garman. She does a lot of team building and training for large corporations. And she said, listen, you need to decide how often you're going to do it. And if you decide daily, Ted, you need to do it every day. Don't get away from the consistency. And so I took that to heart. And I have, with a few exceptions of vacations and things and trying to figure out COVID, I have been consistent with it. And I just think that when people begin to expect it from you, you have an obligation. If you're going to be a journalist or whatever you would like to call me, a show host, I think that people look for it. When I don't do a show, I get messages. Is everything okay? What's going on? People are looking forward to content. And it's not me they're looking forward to, it's the guests. And I just try to showcase the guests. Right now, we're in the middle of I did this week I'll have done 30 shows by the end of the week. And most of those are small businesses, restaurants, counselors, people who are really in the throes of it. And I want to give them the support and give them the platform. So I just take it very seriously, the platform that I have. I'm blessed to do it every day, but the consistency, man, it can be a challenge. There are some days. Yesterday was Wednesday. Tuesday, I did 10 shows back to back. And I was exhausted, but you know what? It was a good exhausted, Alan. It really was. Great question.
Ted, can I ask you, what is your secret to being consistent? Because like me, I do videos and I post my videos, but I have a really hard time with being consistent. And TJ knows that because we talk about this all the time. So can I ask you, what is your secret? Because maybe I don't even know somebody's secret.
I've tried to use other people, right? And I think there are other people that are good but nobody has the vision or the passion like you do about what you're doing. So I've had to block time in order to do the posts in the right way. And it's on top of the post, I'm blocking time out, whether it's, after this, when we're all done and I have dinner later and we're all finished, I'll go back in and I'm going to edit what I said about this show. I'm going to edit about the other shows. I do have a beautiful team because of the home team of Freedom Mortgage, which is where I work as a business development manager, that helped me edit the shows into spots where I can piecemeal them to other platforms like Instagram and LinkedIn. I wouldn't be able to do that, Jess. I would have to pay someone to do that, and I'm very blessed to have that. However, like you said, it's super important because you have to be consistent. So at 10 o'clock at night when I'm doing it, I really just want to go to bed. I just want to go to sleep. I want to veg like everybody else. I want to watch something stupid on Netflix. And yet I know that in order for my product to be representative of me, I just block out that time. So from about 10 o'clock till midnight, because I don't have to get up early. So there's the caveat to that. There's the extra. I block that time out, and that's when I do the focused promotion.
Okay.
It's not easy.
Trust me, I know.
Somebody's got a follow-up question I saw.
Yes, that's me right here. That's me. So do you ever find yourself like getting discouraged? And if you do, how do you handle that?
Discouraged with the show or just in general?
Just like, yeah, discouraged in either or.
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, I'm a positive person, and I get the sense all of you are positive human beings. I mean, that's the energy you're giving me. That's how I feel you are.
Try to.
You are. I mean, we all have our times where we are discouraged, or I'm exhausted, which adds to the discouragement, or I just don't feel like it, and I make myself do it. So one of the things that I do, and it's going to sound cliche and corny and so hokey, but in the morning I start my day, even if I'm exhausted, with gratitude. So I don't write a journal, although I would encourage anybody to journal if that's what they do. I wake up and I say 3 to 5 things that I'm thankful for before I touch social media, before I look at my phone, before I do anything. And I just try to start my day with something positive. When I get discouraged, though, I have a great support system. I also am a man of faith, so faith helps me. But I have a great support system, a great family, and so I lean on them when I have to. But I love that you pointed that out, because we all look like we're positive and we've got it all together because we're on a podcast / Facebook Live show, and we're all journalists and we're all doing what we're supposed to be doing. Guys, we all suffer with the discouragement and the disappointment and the exhaustion, and we are also just finding our way every day, trying to figure out how to overcome that when it hits us. So great question.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
Ish, did you have something?
Yeah, I do have a question. This is completely off topic from what we were just talking about.
All right.
So we're turning the page. Do you think that in the next year or two, houses for sale will be pretty cheap based on what's happening right now?
Yes. So my opinion is that we're going to enter into a time of it being a buyer's market. The only thing that might affect that is, depending on how long this all goes on and how bad or long-term the unemployment is, that's where it's such an iffy thing right now. So if unemployment continues to climb, which is what they're expecting because of the length of time that we're all in quarantine and businesses are closing, then I think it's going to be an interesting market. I think everybody is kind of waiting. We're very busy. So I can give you the 411 on what we are. We're busy with refinances because people want to get the money out of their homes, their equity. We're busy with new purchases because there still are people who are still employed, who want to move here, who want to move to other houses, who have plans, and they're keeping those plans, and the interest rates are low. But I think it's going to be interesting. We're going into however many days, and if we go past April 30th, then it could be a whole new game, honestly, Ish. It could be completely different, because then you're going to see more businesses close, more people being furloughed, which then would not allow them to qualify for the loans because they don't have a job. That part is what worries me the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this pandemic, things are definitely going to change. Now, you did, and I hope I'm not out of line by asking this, but you did mention it on our show about you did have an announcement that you had an announcement in your previous video, and I actually saw the video.
Oh, you did?
I did see the video, and so do you want to share with our audience?
Sure,
what your, announcement
so
was, and I have
That's good. No. I told you could ask me anything. So today I made an announcement that I have cancer. It's stage 1. It's early, super early. But I wanted to be the director of the narrative, and I wanted to have control over how it got announced and who found out when, and to put it out there so that people would know it on my terms. So I did a quick 3-4 minute video, announced it. I talked about the one thing that I'm really, really, really bad at, which is receiving that love. And it's not that I don't think I deserve it. I don't know what my problem is. I'm just an emotional wreck when people share that kind of stuff with me. So of course, what happened, there's 1,000 views and I've gotten at least that many messages. So shout out and love to everybody who sent me something. I promise you I will respond. But you know, that was something important for me to get out because I'm going to be going through radiation. And I thought it was really important for me to, I'm authentic. I try to share everything. I'm vulnerable and I want people to see that I'm authentic about the message that I encourage everyone else to do when you are on social media all the time. And so I'm going to share my journey, see how it goes. My doctor's very optimistic and I'm optimistic. I don't feel anything weird. I'm not going through any strange pain. But you know, this radiation thing's all new and we shall see. So I'm going to share it with the world, whether they want it or not. And we're going to see how it goes. So yes.
Yeah.
How did you find out?
That was
and
my,
what-
hold on, Ish, real quick. Hold on,
okay.
Ish.
Okay.
That was my question to you, is that about that authenticity of why do you feel that it was so important to share with everyone? Did you feel like you owed your audience that, or because
Well, I want to walk the walk. I don't want to preach. I don't want to preach to everybody that you should be vulnerable and authentic social media wise and then hide something that big about what is going on in my life. I'm very, very active in the community. And at some point, somebody was going to find out that didn't know, or some organization was going to find out, or I don't know how things travel. Orlando is a small town and really the world is a small place. And so I just decided to just grab it. I talked to my family. We actually decided today with my doctor what platform or what we were going to do in order to address it. Radiation is what we chose. And so I thought, okay, this is the perfect time. I know what I'm doing. I know the path I'm going down. So let me share it. But I never want to be one of those people that says, hey, TJ, you should be authentic, be vulnerable. And then I'm not sharing something that big with the people who watch the show or who are in my life. So that was why.
Have you grasped the magnitude of the fight? Has that hit you? How long have you known this?
I found out last Friday, so it's been almost a week, and then today we decided the treatment. The crazy thing is that I'm a natural optimist, and because I'm not feeling any pain right now, I don't know if I'm in denial. I don't feel like I am. I'm a positive person, so the chances of my survival are super high. And I know that going into it, I caught it so early. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think I've had people tell me, they messaged me today after I made the announcement and they said, listen, I know you're inside, you're dying or you're crying. And I have to tell you guys, I'm not. You know what's making me cry? All the love you guys are sending me right now. And it's in a good way, but literally that's what's getting me. I can't even look at it right now because it's making me cry. But I'm not crying because I'm in any kind of pain or I'm worried about my life or I'm facing my mortality. I don't feel any of that right now.
Well, I think it's very important. I think it's admirable and courageous that you share your story and you share your testimony. In 2019, I was recently diagnosed with I have diabetes, and so I went to the hospital. And I didn't tell my co-host, but then I thought, you know what? The same thing like you. It's important for me to share that part of me, so that if the information that I found out about diabetes, that I can now share it on this platform for people who think, oh, it doesn't happen to you, and to kind of dispel some of these misconceptions, especially people think, oh, if you're a big person, that's why you get diabetes, which is not true. You can get diabetes if you're, no matter what size you are. It's just if you're bigger, you're more susceptible. So it's not as severe as what you're dealing with, but making sure as podcast hosts that you're right, that we are walking the walk and that we are sharing our experiences and our testimonies, because they're not our own. We don't go through things in life to just hold on to them and keep to ourselves. You're probably going through something, who knows, for the next person who may go through that and say, you know what, Ted went through it. He survived. He got through it. He fought and he kicked cancer's ass. And now I know that I can do it on my, and use this platform. So I'm glad. And I thought it was important for me to bring that up because I wanted to showcase your fighting spirit, your outlook and positivity. And just so you know, our platform is here for you during your fight. We're here with you. So if you get some Ted kick cancer's ass t-shirts, you just let us know so we can I could ship them up to the folks over there.
Thank you. That means a lot.
You had a follow-up?
Yeah, I have two questions. I have two questions.
Sure.
The first is, what made you check? And the second is, can you describe that day if it's not too sensitive or painful to describe?
Sure. So the day that I found out?
Yes.
So what made me check is I have prostate cancer. So I was just feeling, as you get older, men generally tend to, not to be gross, but they just don't pee as fast as they used to. And so I just wasn't feeling all that right. I had no other symptoms, no pain in my back, no nothing, but I'm very proactive. My master's degree is in healthcare admin. So I have a little bit of a healthcare background. And so I'm like, you know what? My daughter's an oncology nurse. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go get it checked out. The MRI showed absolutely nothing. So we did a biopsy just to be safe. And then the biopsy came back with 2 spots of cancer, 2 literally the most minuscule. One of my urologist friends said, Ted, I've never seen anything so low. You caught it so early. And so the day that they told me, it's interesting because I hadn't expected it. I had a scheduled doctor's appointment. And then we had a phone consult the Friday before, which was last Friday. And I took the consult and I went on and did 6 shows. I didn't tell my family. I'm still in trouble for that because I was still processing it. I was trying to figure it out. Like, okay, so what does this really mean? Is anything different? No. I'm going to have to be inconvenienced by whatever the treatment is. And then we're going to figure that out. But I didn't feel sad that day, which is what I expected I would. I was more worried about the feelings of the people that I care about, that care about me. I was very conscious of, oh my God, I know I'm going to go into support mode. When they're trying to comfort me, I'm going to be comforting them. And I was trying to figure out how to make it so it wasn't a weird, awkward thing, which it ended up being no matter what, because everybody cried and I'm comforting them. And then they're getting mad because why are you comforting us? I'm like, I'm fine. So I really do feel fine. I feel good, and fine's such a bad word. I feel good. I feel excellent. I feel positive. Just being able to share it today was good because I had some people that I told, and I think it was starting to get out there. People were like, how you feeling, Ted? When that starts to come at you, it's not just COVID-19. That is somebody is freaking out. Something's going on. And so I'm like, you know what? I do everything else live and out there for the world. Let's just do it. So great question, though. I feel good.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Why, Ted, can I ask you why is there never a co-host? Why? See, when I first started the Soapboxx, right? Anytime they make fun of me, I say, listen, this should have I don't need no co-host when they make fun of me, when they get on me. So why did you decide, right? Why did you decide, okay, this is the Ted show? Because I couldn't do it. Like, not that I can't, but it was nerve-wracking for me to just call it, the legacy show. Why did you make that decision to say, listen, no co-host, 500 episodes, this is me?
I feel like in the beginning, I had a friend who said, Ted, your life is like a show because I'm so active in the community and do so much work in the community and just have obviously a larger than life personality for most of the day. And somebody said, Evan Clausen, he's a friend of mine. He said, your whole life's like a show. I actually booked the URL, the TED show, 2 years before we did the live part, because I knew that would eventually be something I wanted to do. I just didn't know how. And then Facebook Live came out. And then all I could think about is a co-host would take away from the person that I'm interviewing, because I'm actually showcasing the guest. And so if it was me and a co-host and the guest would have less time to be showcased. And so I just made the decision like, well, I'm just going to take it on myself. It's not always easy. There are some interviews, as you know, if you guys have done them, where you're pulling teeth. Oh my God, it's like watching paint dry. Yeah. It's very difficult.
Who pops into your mind? Who pops into your mind when you say pulling teeth?
Yeah. So it's like that's a. I'm gonna plead the fifth on that one.
I see. I try to get him.
You just don't want to make people feel bad. It's funny because people will reach out to me that I want to be on the show. I've got this thing to promote. And then literally I'll say, so tell us about your organization. Well, it was founded in 1912 and it's over. And I'm like, okay, so that's it. So here we go. We're going to create all the content. Here we go, Ted. You better figure out how to get it out of them because it's going to be a 1 or 2 word answer to everything you ask. And then I sit back and go, why did you want to be on the show? You can't even promote anything. So put somebody else on. I don't care who, put your kid on. They could probably talk more about whatever you want to talk about than this. But it's so funny because they think it's going to be this magical thing when they come on and I'm going to just do all the talking. Well, most of the time I've done zero research about what even their organization is. So I have no idea what I'm getting into when I go into it. And so I'm like, okay, well, here we go. Let's find out what their childhood was like. I don't know. But yeah, a co-host I feel like would take away from what I'm trying to do, which is showcase that individual, their gifts, their talents, their business, whatever they're trying to promote. And so that's why I chose not to have a co-host.
Ted, you are making way too much sense. You are making way.
I haven't had enough White Claw today, apparently. I don't know what's happening.
Look, TJ, now that you have that information, will you consider it? Are you going to kick any of us to the curb? Like, how will this proceed?
Well,
let us know, TJ.
Well, Jess announced that she's leaving the show today, so I guess that's one. You know,
that's not even a problem.
So Javonni's not here, so now we're down to Alan and Ish. So I guess we'll have like a little survivor competition to see who can outwit, and outplay. But Ted, I wanted to ask you, how long have you been married?
29 years.
Wow.
Okay, all right, 29. Can you give? And I always ask the married men who come on the show, what's your secret sauce? What's your special stuff? How do you make the marriage last? And what does your wife do to keep you happy? Because we want you to give. What is her advice that you think she would give Ish and Jesse? Because they're clamoring for advice.
And
for marriage advice. Me and Alan are the bachelors. We're fine. So please, what does she do to keep you for 29 years?
What do you do to keep her for 29 years?
I promise you I will answer that. They're both great questions. So, the foundation, you have to have the foundation, right? You have to have the foundation and you have to have your non-negotiables. Non-negotiables are, for me, cheating, trust, lying. There has to be that honesty. There has to be that trust. Everything else is, for me, built around that and above that. So we went into it. We were friends first. And when we began to date, which is 31 years ago, we up front, I had just come off of another relationship. I was engaged previously. And I said, all right, here are the things. I want to date. I want us to have a relationship. Here are my non-negotiables. What are yours? And so we have worked off of those for 29 years. Has it been perfect? No. Has it been a challenge? Yes. Every single day it's a challenge. Why? Because you're in a relationship with another human being. Yeah. I don't care how much you love, trust, and want to be with them. They are a different person than you. So if you go into it with the expectation that everything's going to be perfect, you're going to be very disappointed. What I do for her, I think, is I bring stability, believe it or not. I've always worked 1, 2, 3 jobs. The kids have always been provided for. There's a sense of us always having a roof over our heads. I'm also, I could be better, but I am attentive in my own way. And she has a different love language than me, which is a whole nother show. If you ever want to have a great show, talk about love languages, because that's some crazy stuff right there. But for me, what she does, she's the caretaker. I mean, I'm the princess, the garden that needs to be tended. I mean, I'm all of those things that she is good at, and she does them lovingly. And so it's an interesting give or take. Do I think she gives more than I do? Yes, 100,000 times over. She gives it in a way that is much more out there, and she demonstrates it more. Mine is more an underlying quiet support. I mean, think about it. In the personality department and the crazy world that we live in, I'm out there for everyone to see.
Yeah.
She's got to deal with when people come up to me in public and go, I love the TED show. I mean, who wants to put up with that crap?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to put up with that crap. So she has the patience and the love and the respect. And we just have always worked that way. Bringing kids, we have 3 kids, 1 grandson. All of that adds to it, but you have to have the foundation first. For me, it's trust, and trust involves no cheating, honest, no matter how painful it is. And that's really the way where everything else comes from.
Amen.
I see Jess nodding her head and agreeing with you. She has a laundry list of demands. They're their demands. What are your demands, Jess? Just so Ted knows.
Ted just said is all that I asked for. That's it. Loyalty, honesty, and trust. It's not that hard. They've been married for 26, 29? 29 years. It can be done.
But the trick is when it comes to like words like loyalty, it's not black and white what loyalty is, because everyone interprets that differently outside of the obvious of like cheating. So something like I just require loyalty can span anything from cheating to likes on Instagram to going outside and seeing someone and just maybe glancing at them. So loyalty is just such a wide spectrum.
But here's what you do, Alan. Here's my opinion. Here's my opinion on that. Okay, so you establish that immediately. You immediately set the parameters and just say, this is what here's my definition of loyalty. And then they give your definition of loyalty, and then you know what everybody's to expect. And if that is not good for you, get the hell out of the relationship. It's over. There's no reason to continue on with it.
If I ask Jess to, Jess, are you cooking dinner tonight? She's going to list off a whole bunch of things that I need to do before she turns the oven on.
I got 2 boys. I'm cooking dinner regardless.
I'm talking about your man. I'm not trying to eat fish sticks and French fries. I'm talking about a good course meal.
First of all, don't play me, because I don't even cook. I cook, all right? I'm Cape Verdean, so I cook. I know how to cook.
Nice. You make good food.
Yeah.
Yes, and I will cook for my man. I have no problem cooking for my man, but don't have me cooking for you and you have me out here looking stupid. Like, be loyal. Do the things that I want you to do. Be faithful, be trustworthy, treat me right, and I will have no problem doing those things. So TJ, what is it that you were saying?
You see how I got around up? You see how I get around up real quick. Well, Ted, I want to be respectful of your time, because I know we're about an hour in, and I know we're gonna wrap soon. But there's a segment that we have on our show, and we call it "What's the Moral of the Story?" And it's basically how we tie a bow on the conversation that we had. So I'm gonna toss it around the horn. I'm gonna start with Alan this time, because I don't think I ever start with Alan. I'm gonna start with Alan and say, Alan, what's your moral of the story?
Wow. So my moral of the story today, and I guess it seems like kind of a theme, because I'm going through this. I'm doing a 30-day like fitness challenge on this website, and this morning the gentleman was talking about getting up every morning and writing in his gratitude journal, and then now talking today with Ted, he spoke about that as well. So today's theme and the moral of my story is gratitude. Take this time to point out all the things in your life that are good, because like they say, there's always someone else out there who would trade positions with you. So the moral of the story today is gratitude and introduction. It was great to meet you, Ted. To Ted's audience, it was great to meet you guys as well. So gratitude and introduction is the moral of the story.
So there's muscles there's muscles under that sweatshirt, Ted. It's coming soon. Don't you worry. Ish, what's your moral of the story?
The moral of the story for me is to take care of your health. Pay attention to your body, listen to it. It talks to us. If you need to wash it. Remember to wash your hands as well. If you're mentally, there's a lot on you. Take a break. Don't let people push you and overwhelm you. Like, your most important job is to protect yourself, protect your health in all aspects. So yeah, pay attention, get your checkups. If you trust doctors, I have to say that because I know some people don't, or natural ways that work for you. But just make sure that you're on top of things. You rest your body. That's important as well for workaholics. So yes, pay attention to your body and take care of yourself holistically.
Jess, what's your moral of the story?
So before I get to that, I just want to say thank you to TJ and Ted for being your raw selves and sharing with us your diagnosis, even though you guys didn't have to do that. Like, I appreciate that. I know my fellow co-hosts, we appreciate that. So thank you so much for letting us know, especially bringing awareness to that. I appreciate it very much. And yeah, what Ishna said too about health, it's very important. Take care of yourselves, but don't judge me for being who I am. I went to Walmart today and some lady asked me why I wasn't wearing a mask. You wearing a mask? Don't worry about why I'm not wearing a mask. But the moral of my story is what Ted said about being consistent. If you really want something, go for it, be consistent, dedicate yourself to it. That's something that I personally have to work at. So I'm really glad that you shared that with us, Ted. And yeah, just be consistent and maybe your following will grow. Just
there's only one, just say. I promise you. And Ted, before we start, let's give a round of applause for Ted.
Thank you
Ted
guys
for being on the show.
Cheers.
Yes, and thank you for having us and doing the crossover.
I just want to say, I'd like to say one thing if I could about you. So here's the thing. So when I get interviewed or when I get to go on shows, you never know how people are going to be. And you all have to know that there is power in what you're doing, because you can immediately feel the camaraderie, the love, the respect when you come on here. And it's not just me, you can feel it amongst yourselves. And that is just so rare these days. So huge kudos to all of you for being open, for sharing your platform. I think it is amazing what you're doing. And you can't fake that kind of love, and we all need more of it. So thank you for having me, and thank you for being open and supportive. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
No problem. And is that your moral of the story?
That's my moral of the story.
That's perfect. My moral of the story is, don't be afraid to reach across the aisle and get out of your comfort zone. Okay. For me and Ted to do this crossover episode, there's a lot of podcasts out there, but I knew when Ish came up, and I want to thank Ish for coming up with this concept, because I think it was pretty dope. Thank you for being engaged in your enthusiasm to try to create content. I really wanted to do this crossover episode with Ted, because I don't know Ted. We don't frequent the same circles. We're probably on the opposite sides of the train tracks together. But when we have conversations, that's how you learn people. And we found some commonality with each other. And so, at times in our society, we block off differences. We say, this person's not like me. This person doesn't talk like me, look like me. So I don't want to engage with them. Literally, the whole Trolls movie, the new one, is about that, about engaging people in their differences. And so I'm very happy that Ted allowed us the opportunity to be on his platform, and vice versa, so that we can learn things. And I think people can use this as a subject matter, as a test subject, to really cross over and reach across the aisle and give an olive branch to each other. So Ted, you are an awesome guest. Thank you for sharing your story. I think you're extremely courageous for sharing your story. You are a friend of the show. I'd love to have you on when we have another guest on, so you can be like us and we can, get your insight and intake on some of our pop culture and hot topics. But you're a friend of the show, and I want to say this from the bottom of my heart. I really mean this. We're in this fight with you. So anybody who's going through, whether it's cancer treatment, if you've been diagnosed with COVID-19 or any of that stuff, if you need a platform, if you want to disseminate information to the masses so that they can follow you, you have an open platform here with the Soapboxx, and a friend in the Soapboxx so that you can do so. So we are with you, Ted. We're in this fight. We're in this for the long haul, and Godspeed on your journey. But I want to make sure that you know that you are not alone.
Thank you.
Come back, Ted. We need
I'd
you
love
back.
to.
Yes.
I'd be honored.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm very proud. I want to point out, I pulled out my Gordon Gartrell shirt. If you guys have ever seen the Cosby Show when when Denise made Theo's shirt, this is my closest Ted shirt that I could find in my wardrobe that's loud.
Oh my God, that's
in honor of Ted, this is what I wore. And so, Ted, I think you're an awesome individual, and I brevely appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you
All right.
so much. All right. Lots of love, everybody.
Yep. So for Alan, for Ish, for Jesse, for Ted, this is the Soapboxx Podcast, and this is the
Ted Show.
The Ted Show.
All right. Lots of love to you guys. Thank you.
All right. Peace.